Welcome back to the channel, guys. Let's get straight into today's story. The phrase cash for honours still sends a shiver through British politics, and for good reason. Back in 2005, it exposed something many people already suspected but rarely saw lay bare: the comfortable closeness between money, power and political influence at the very top of the government. And although no one ultimately went to prison, the damage to public trust was enormous and arguably never repaired. At the heart of the scandal was Tony Blair's Labour government and a simply but deeply troubling allegation. Wealthy individuals were allegedly loaning large sums of money to the Labour Party, and shortly afterwards being nominated for peerages in the House of Lords. These weren't small donations either. We're talking about millions of pounds, quietly lent rather than donated, a key detail that would later become central to the controversy. Now, under the law at the time, political donations above a certain threshold had to be publicly declared. Loans, however, existed in a legal grey area. Labour took full advantage of that loophole. Several wealthy businessmen loaned the party significant sums and in return, at least in the eyes of critics, found themselves elevated to the Lords. Whether this was a formal deal or not, the optics was disastrous. The names involved raised eyebrows immediately. Individuals like Lord Levi, a close Blair ally and a key fundraiser, were central figures in the investigation. Levi was arrested and questioned by police, something almost unheard of for someone so close to sitting Prime Minister. Blair himself was interviewed by police 3 times, again unprecedented territory for a British PM. So let that sink in for a moment. A serving Prime Minister being questioned by police over allegations that honours were effectively being sold. Even if no charges follow, that alone tells you how serious it had become. The police investigation focused whether the government had breached the Honours Prevention of Abuses Act 1925. A law designed specifically to stop titles being exchanged for money. That law exists for a reason, because Britain long ago recognised how corrosive it was when public honours became private rewards. Yet, despite the scale of the investigation, no charges were ever brought. The Crown Prosecution Service concluded there was insufficient evidence to secure convictions. Legally, Labour wriggled free. Politically and morally, the damage was done. This scandal confirmed something many voters already believed: that the political class plays by a different set of rules. Ordinary people pay their taxes, follow the law and struggle to get heard. The wealthy and well-connected, they get meetings, access and, in this case, titles. Tony Blair always insisted there was no wrongdoing. He maintained that nominations were based on merit, not money. But for many people, that explanation simply didn't pass the sniff test. When peerages and financial support line up neatly, trust evaporates. It also fed into a broader criticism of Blair's era, that Labour had become increasingly comfortable with big money, corporate influence and elite circles, while talking the language of fairness and equality. Cash for honours wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern that made many lifelong Labour voters deeply uneasy. And here's the key point: even though this happened nearly 20 years ago, its legacy is still very much alive. It reinforced the idea that politics is rigged, that institutions protect themselves, and that accountability stops short of the very top. The cynicism didn't disappear, it hardened. It also directly contributed to reforms. The rules around political funding and loans were tightened. Transparency improved, but the public's faith, that's much harder to restore once it's lost. What makes this scandal even more relevant today is how often we still similar accusations. Influence, access and rewards flowing towards donors, lobbyists and insiders. Cash for honours became shorthand for wider sickness in the system. And for Tony Blair personally, it added another heavy layer to the already controversial legacy. Iraq may dominate the history books, but cash for honours quietly cemented the perception of a leader who blurred ethical lines and treated power as something to be managed, not restrained. No convictions, no prison sentences, but a lasting stain on British politics, and a reminder that legality and morality are not the same thing. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want more honest political commentary and don't want to miss what's really happening behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments below.